I never imagined my marriage would be tested in such a complicated and emotional way. My name is Emily Parker, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina with my husband, Daniel Parker. We've been married for 11 years, and in those years, we've built what most people would call a happy, ordinary life. We have a modest home, a shared love for gardening, and countless nights spent watching movies curled up on the couch. But behind the warm, picture-perfect exterior, there were cracks that neither of us truly noticed until it was almost too late. It started last spring when Daniel's work at an engineering firm became more demanding than ever. Long nights, late phone calls, and countless business trips began taking over his time. I tried to be patient, reminding myself that he was working for our future. But as the weeks stretched into months, I started to feel invisible. I missed him. His laughter, his presence, his attention. That was when Michael Turner entered my life. Michael was a new neighbor who had just moved into the house across the street. He was divorced, in his mid-40s, and often seen working on his car or mowing his lawn. One afternoon, when I struggled with a heavy box of garden supplies, Michael offered to help. His kindness and the way he listened when I talked filled a void I didn't even realize had grown so deep inside me. At first, our conversations were innocent. Quick chats by the mailbox, laughter over yard work mishaps, or simply waving at each other across the street. But soon, those moments became the highlight of my day. I began to notice how my heart would race when I saw him, how I lingered a little longer outside, just hoping to run into him. I didn't cross any boundaries, not yet, but emotionally, I was drifting into dangerous waters. One evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. He seemed tired, but there was a heaviness in his eyes that I couldn't quite place. We sat at the dinner table in silence until he finally said, "Emily, is there something you're not telling me?" My heart nearly stopped. I asked him what he meant, and he hesitated before admitting, "I've noticed you've been different. Distracted. I see the way you talk to Michael." I wanted to deny it, to push it all away, but Daniel's words cut through the truth I had been hiding even from myself. I broke down and confessed that I had grown emotionally attached to Michael, though nothing physical had happened. Daniel sat there, quiet, his expression unreadable. The days that followed were filled with tension. Daniel didn't yell or accuse me, but he became distant. I, on the other hand, wrestled with guilt and confusion. Part of me wanted to rebuild what Daniel and I had, but another part couldn't ignore the connection I felt with Michael. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Saturday evening. Daniel had been working in his home office all day, and I went outside for some fresh air. Michael was in his driveway, and we began talking. Our conversation carried a weight of unspoken feelings. As the sky darkened, I realized how close we were standing, how easily his presence comforted me. But what I didn't know was that Daniel had been watching from the living room window. He saw everything. The closeness, the familiarity, the unspoken bond between us. Later that night, he confronted me. His voice wasn't angry, but rather calm and steady, which somehow hurt more. "I saw you," he said simply. I froze. The truth was out in the open. My husband had watched me, and there was no taking it back. Instead of exploding, Daniel surprised me. He suggested counseling. He admitted that his long hours at work had created a distance between us and that he too felt the marriage slipping. He wanted us to face the truth together rather than tear each other apart. The following weeks were some of the hardest of my life. Counseling forced us to open wounds we had long ignored. I admitted how neglected I felt, while Daniel confessed how pressured he was to provide for us. Through those sessions, I began to see my husband again. Not just the man who was too busy, but the man who had once made me laugh until my sides ached, the man who had held my hand through tough times. As for Michael, I made the difficult decision to step back. I told him that I needed to focus on my marriage, that while he had been a source of comfort, my heart ultimately belonged with Daniel. Michael understood, though I could see the disappointment in his eyes. Months passed, and slowly Daniel and I began to heal. Our nights on the couch returned. Our conversations grew deeper, and our laughter once again filled the house. But then something unexpected happened. Daniel traveled for work, and when he returned, his demeanor was strangely quiet. Finally, one night, he sat me down and said, "Emily, I think I understand now what you went through. There's someone at work who's been showing me attention. And I realized how easy it is to slip. But I stopped myself because I remembered what it felt like when I saw you with Michael. My chest tightened. My husband had watched me fall into temptation, and now I was watching him fight his own battle. The symmetry of it all was both painful and strangely unifying. We looked at each other across the room, and for the first time in a long time, we truly understood each other. Marriage, we realized, isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other even when the world tries to pull you apart. Our story isn't one of betrayal that destroyed us, but of temptation that reminded us why we needed to fight for each other. Today, Daniel and I are stronger than we've ever been. We still carry the scars of that chapter, but we also carry the lessons it taught us. Love isn't about never faltering. It's about finding your way back, even after you've stumbled. And so, when I look at him now, I don't just see my husband. I see the man who chose me, and the man I chose in return, even after we both had reasons to walk away. That's what makes our love real.